Hello and welcome to Breaking Culture Live. I'm your host, Sean Johnson Andrews. I'm the immediate past president of the Cultural Studies Association. Thanks for joining us in this experiment in scholarly communication. Today, I'm really pleased to welcome my friend and colleague, Kathalene Razzano. Kathalene, or Katy, as we'll probably call her, is a visiting lecturer at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, where she teaches courses in media history, media theory, and methods. She's a co-editor with Lubna Skalihana of the Gender and Activism series at Lexington Books. Her primary research interests are at the intersection of cultural studies, media studies, critical gender and critical pedagogy, and political economy. She has a very specific interest, which we've talked about quite a bit, in gender, family, and the state. Her work on paternity testing, daytime talk shows, and the state has been published in Cultural Studies, as well as in her co-authored book, Vulture Culture, The Politics and Pedagogy of Daytime Television Shows with Christine Quayle and Lubna Skalihana. She has of late turned her interest in paternity and fatherlessness to include Project 2025's articulation of the American family in crisis and the policy proposals and projects that emerge from Project 2025 and its acolytes, such as J.D. Vance. This includes the recently launched Moms.gov, which we'll be talking about today, and its associated websites. She feels very strongly about surveillance capitalism, so has a very limited social media presence, but she is writing her own prosody manifesto. We'll have to have some commentary on this, that may or may not be published on Mastodon once she gets the hang of it. She's a self-affirmed cat lady, and she spends her free time laughing at the concept of free time while petting her cat all over money. So thanks for joining us today, Katy.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We have been engaged in a conversation for several years. I mean, really, like
Yes.
probably a decade now,
Yes.
about reactionary, authoritarian, and dare we say, fascist visions of the family
Mhm.
that are now ascendant in the U.S. Uh, and we've been on several panels at the CSA talking about this. One with our colleague Jodi Davis, who unfortunately can't join us today. And you also appeared on the podcast I co-host with Madhurima Chakraborty to trace the work you were doing on Project 2025 back to your earlier research on paternity. Hopefully we can talk more about some of that as we go, especially the most recent stuff on Project 2025 and JD Vance's podcast visions. But maybe today we can start by looking at a website that I doubt many people have looked at before, which is Moms.gov, which to me sounds perverse.
Mhm.
Um, what led you to this site, and what do you know about its history?
Well, moms.gov, there was a big launch um, at the end of May, the beginning of June. And this is where you had Kennedy there and you had Dr. Oz there. And this is where Dr. Oz put forth the term that uh, we are underbabied. And
Yes.
so I got really kind of interested in this idea of underbabied, um, its connection to the like proto natality discourse that we're hearing about. Um, and so I wanted to just kind of check out what
Hmm.
underbabied means uh, and what moms.gov might offer. Uh, what kind of, I, because part of what we've talked about in the past
Right.
is with this administration and its embrace of Project 2025, what kinds of policies can we see about family? What kinds of um, resources are going to be made available? How is family being defined and structured? And I have a very sort of keen interest in how is mother defined? How is father defined? And so,
Yeah.
when I hear, oh, there's moms.gov, I want to check it out. right? What does it look like? And so just to kind of start us off, though, I will kind of give us the idea of like underbabied.
Yeah,
Now,
where did you get this? Where'd you
this
come
is
up with this, Katy? How are we under baby?
so this
Why are
is
you saying that?
this is Dr. Oz. This is a term he used, and it means either that you don't have any children or you have less children than you would normally want to have, right?
Okay.
Uh, so we're underbabied. And part of the initiative and what caught my ear was they make a claim that one of the things, and this is where Kennedy kind of comes in, you have to get moms, I think this was Dr. Oz. You have to get moms healthy enough to do the most creative thing the universe knows, which is making babies.
Hmm.
So, um, so now
And is this related to does this come before? Is it related to, I know that in the podcast where JD Vance talks about this, isn't that the same word that he uses, is underbabied, or is that just
um,
or just that we
no,
don't have babies?
no, I don't think he uses underbabied. I think there's a different term. Um,
Okay.
but 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 there's this idea that right we underbabied, I think, is being applied in two ways. The first way is to individuals. So it might mean that you don't have any children or you have less children than you would normally want to have.
Right.
And then it's being applied to nation, that we don't have any children or we have less children than we would normally want to have. And this is where, right, there's that link to population, that um, we're not meeting population growth to sustain our civilization. This is sort of the big concern.
Which
Um,
it's worth kind of noting, what we're talking about here then is not necessarily babies full stop. It's particular kinds of babies,
yes,
right?
yes.
And I want to just I'm just going to share. This is one of the, at the top of the screen, on Moms.gov. It's supposed to be for addressing the needs of mothers and fathers who face difficult or unexpected pregnancies. I mean, just as someone who's had a difficult pregnancy, or experienced that, there's nothing on here about that. Just to be clear.
Mhm,
But when we look at who, this image of what pregnancy is and what a mom is,
mhm.
this sort of like encapsulates all of the discourse right here. Right, we have a
Yes.
kind of white mother in the, I don't know where she's standing, uh,
Mhm.
but it's in this sort of like natural setting with this golden, is that wheat? I'm not sure, but but then you also have the footprints here, the
Mhm.
pink and the blue. So we kind
Mhm.
of make sure that right there in this image we have the notion that it's going to be defined by a gender is either boy or girl, and you're going to know it right when the baby's born, if not before,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
And I haven't done a lot of looking into sort of that the trad wife influencers, but my sense is that this image is a trad wife aesthetic.
hmm no,
Um,
I looked for it. I tried to do a search on the image. It didn't, it's probably AI generated at this point. Everything they do is AI generated. But it definitely has that trad wife feel. Even this dress is very much a sort of boho chic
mhm.
sort of trad wife. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, and so,
So,
yeah.
right. So I looked, so I started to look right at the website and right off, you're pointing like some of those things that are raising flags for me in terms of how are we thinking about mothers. And so one of the first thing you get to, right, it says Moms.gov is about resources, information, and help. And so the first resource that they offer are pregnancy, access to pregnancy support services and health centers.
This is just scrolling right down from our trad wife image. We have this image of these two kinds of support networks, right?
Right. And so if you've studied women's reproductive rights, you'll understand that pregnancy centers, right, are not places that will even offer you the idea of an abortion. They've been known, called in the past, maybe still called pregnancy crisis centers, but these are places that will provide you with a whole host of options for you to have the baby, right? What
kind of lead you to that decision, right?
Yes.
This first link on the left, if you click on this, it takes you to Option Line, which is run by the same organization that puts up these posters on the side of the road that talks about the heartbeat. It's the heartbeat organization that is, don't have an abortion because it's a heartbeat, and Jesus loves the heartbeat. And most of these most of the information on here is kind of, it's poised as if it's giving you concrete, a non-biased info, but it's definitely leading you to, well, do you want to, you could have an abortion, but have you looked into the options? I mean, it can be really dangerous. You don't know if you're pregnant. Do you know about the provider? Do they have admitting permissions at the local hospital, which is actually like one of the things that they've used to deny abortions, especially in the South. That was this sort of regulatory loophole before Dobbs. They were like, well, if they don't have admitting permissions, then they shouldn't be allowed to provide abortions in the entire state.
Right.
And so in places where this isn't the case, then they're kind of making that an issue. And then, of course, the medication abortion is one of the only ways that people are doing that right now. And I think yesterday it was revealed that Todd Blanche was on a call with all of these leaders of faith saying they're trying to get rid of this too.
Oh, see, I did not look at the news yesterday.
Yeah, I guess he was on a call and he said that they're trying to make Dobbs nationwide because the main hangup right now is medical abortion, medicine abortions, medicinal abortions, and that they're trying to get those eliminated as well. So,
yes.
So yeah, right at the top.
Right at the top.
You're in a crisis.
Right.
What should you do?
What should you do? And then
be directed to a non-governmental agency that has no oversight by the federal government.
Yes, and right, and who's what we're going to see throughout Moms.gov is a very clear slant towards Project 2025's focus on a phrase that they use repeatedly throughout: life and family. So whenever they talk about family, it is it is often, I shouldn't say whenever, it's often coupled with pro-life, pro-family, life and family as fundamental values that go hand in hand. So the idea of the unborn as having as part, as automatically family forming is a fundamental idea. And so what you're going to see here is that the assumption of those values of life and family, pro-life, pro-family. And in the conversations that we've had in the past, and I think worth rehashing here, is the idea that the right has sort of a firm grip on what family is, what
Right.
family means, how it's defined, how it's understood, its role in our society, its connection to the state. And so I think part of the challenge as we go through things like Moms.gov is to push back on that and have the left kind of work towards an articulation of family that changes the game or flips
Right.
the script a little bit. Uh, your conversation last week, I think, talked about,
With Maria Levina.
yes,
Yes. Yes.
uh, talked about the way that power works, a sort of a Foucauldian understanding of power. And one of the things that draws me to like a Foucauldian understanding of all of this is the way he talks about the family under governmentality, right? That the family becomes a multi-form tactic of the state. Um, the family is a site where we learn behaviors. Um, it is a site of biopower. And so thinking it through, things like pregnancy and the body. Conversely, my other work on paternity, right? Thinking it through this idea of DNA as a true marker of a biological father who is
Hmm.
gonna be like the guy who saves the day, fixes our problems of juvenile delinquency and teen pregnancy and poverty. If only the father would be resurrected back into the nuclear family form. Um,
Yeah. And so the governmentality part has a sort of a lineage in the conservative and the right. But it also seems like what we're looking at, and what we kind of thought, and we kind of hinted at it last week, is the sort of, we're at another level almost with this document, right? That
mhm,
I was reading through kind of as you, because you'd mentioned it when we did within the podcast, Jason Stanley's book, How Fascism Works, and in that
mhm,
book he says that patriarchy and the hierarchical patriarchal family figures, they figure centrally into the mythical past of the nation.
mhm,
So he starts with, this is the mythical past of the nation. And he says, quote, in a fascist society, the leader of the nation is analogous to the father in the traditional patriarchal family. The leader is the father of his nation, and his strength and power are the source of his legal authority, just as the strength and power of the father of the family and patriarchy are supposed to be the source of his ultimate moral authority over his children and wife. So it's interesting, I don't want to, and I think we should. I want to come back to the governmentality to Foucault, but it's interesting here that this is not called family.gov,
mhm,
right?
right,
And it also isn't called fathers.gov. It's not called patriarchalfather.gov or dads.gov.
right.
It's focused especially on this subjectivity of the mom.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know, what do you make of that? Why is it moms.gov, and how does that fit into this framework?
Yeah. So my initial way of thinking about this does connect back to my paternity work. And the paternity work, with the paternity, I argue that kind of under the neoliberal, neoconservative regime,
Hmm.
rationalities that the paternity test emerges, right? So it emerges at a particular moment in time, um, the early 2000s. It becomes affordable, and we see it used not only on daytime talk shows, but throughout welfare law and child support enforcement programs. And I I suggest that in order for this framework to the question of paternity, how it works is it positions the mother and child as kind of fixed to each other. And the mother is fixed as reproductive, for her reproductive labor. It's assumed as natural. Her nurturing is assumed. Her love is assumed. Her care work is assumed. And it is the father then. So she is a necessary but insufficient
Right.
part of raising a child. And we need to find the father who is to come in and provide discipline, moral guidance, role model, maybe emotional support, but mostly resources. In the paternity dynamic, the the unborn, right, or the newly born is always a resource taker. The child is never presented like this is a beloved miracle, right? That this is always a baby that is there, that is going to claim the resources of the father. And so, that baby is going to claim resources. Is it going to be the
Right.
resources of the state? Are we going to have to pay for your child? Which is a common a line used in the talk shows. Or is the father going to be responsible and pay for their own kid? And so I argue that the father is flexible in this dynamic because we allow him to be the father if he is a check in the mail once a month. He still gets
Right.
father. He can
Well,
be,
and this is where there's a clear race and class dynamic to both of the fathers that aren't sort of fulfilling their role, and sort of how that has these like broader social implications. So if you say
right,
like who's going to pay for your kid, we don't see any of that on the moms.gov, right? The moms.gov
mhm,
is focused on you should probably just have a baby, and
yes,
also it's probably your fault if you're having any problems. But
yes.
um uh
So part of what happens here is that the the female body itself becomes a birthing body and is reframed and structured as such. And part of that goes back to the rise of imaging technologies, right?
sure.
So now we can actually see inside the body
Sure.
and
Yeah.
note this other existence. And my
Which
sense,
we couldn't do before Roe versus Wade, right? It was
yes,
sort of like Roe versus Wade, and then a few years later you could have the ultrasound and kind of imagine this separate entity that could just it was just sort of floating in there, and you could take pictures of it and show that it was separate,
right,
as if there was a way for it to live outside of that body.
right. And that's where, right now we have this idea of the unborn child. We can visualize it, right? We can, um,
Sure.
we have an image of it as separate from, but so there's a shift here, um, and a reframing of the female body as a birthing body. And part of what you see here in terms of this access to pregnancy support services and health centers is a focusing on the birthing body. That
Yeah.
is a
I'm just gonna bring up the nutrition quick facts
yes,
because I think
right, because that's
this
where we're
is
going. Right. And so the next resource available is this nutrition guidelines. So we want you to be healthy. You need to have a healthy weight, you know.
diverse, nutrition dense food, including iron rich meats, which are pretty expensive,
Hmm.
folate rich greens and legumes, which are often inaccessible if you don't have a grocery store nearby, uh,
Hmm.
eggs, which are going up, dairy, which I guess that's fine. But low mercury, omega-3 rich seafoods
Mm-hmm.
like salmon, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows how easy it is to get salmon in the
Mm-hmm.
in the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, and if we go to that webpage, I think one of the other things that's sort of important to talk about is the way that it frames uh, this. I mean, we were kind of talking about this uh, chronic disease, chronic illness.
Yes.
All of this is based on diet and lifestyle,
Right.
which assumes that there's basically no. It's your fault
Yes.
if you
Yes.
don't have the right birthing body. If you're not taking care of your birthing body, if you have a chronic illness, there's no one to blame but yourself.
Right. And it gets a little creepy. The I shouldn't say it might not seem creepy to everybody, right? It's creepy to me. I say that, my uh so it gets my radar is up, this focus on the birthing body. But on the surface, right, this is like, well, of course we want healthy pregnant bodies will have better
Sure.
birthing outcomes. Of course, right? This makes sense. And so one of the things that I think we need to be cognizant of is the reasonableness
Hmm.
of much of this. Um,
The
of
rationality.
Right. Yes. Right. Of course, you should get prenatal medical care.
Sure.
Of course, you should eat well
Sure.
while you're pregnant. Right.
That would
Oh,
be ideal. That would
that
be
would
ideal.
be that would be great. But under the undercurrent here is that we have to connect this back to that very idea of being underbabied. This the movement that we're seeing, uh, especially from the far right, about population, uh, demographic change.
Hmm.
And so it's not just that we're underbabied, but that the wrong people are having babies.
Yeah.
Um, that uh and so there's a connection, there's a thread here that is running from the far right through Project 2025, and it sits right under um this moms.gov site.
Yeah, because
So
they're not saying anything about the moms that are being separated from their kids right now.
no.
The mothers who've had problems, getting prenatal care, any medical care, pregnant women in ICE detention, right? None of
Right.
that, and these women, and then we have birthright citizenship being challenged, right?
Mhm.
So that this is another front on that. Maybe you're born in the U.S., but that doesn't mean you're a baby we want here,
Right.
right? And so all this notion of moms.gov is definitely premised on a white middle class mom who can already kind of provide for the family.
Yeah.
Um, or I was kind of scrolling down a little more, and I'm sure you're maybe I don't want to skip ahead, but I was scrolling
we can,
down
we
to
can
this
go.
to the next two things because I was thinking about this quote from Stanley talking about the state and the
Mm-hmm.
role of the state being also the father, because we kind of scroll down
Mm-hmm.
and the next two things on this site are
Mm-hmm.
Daddy Trump's going to take care of you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Daddy Trump,
Yes.
you can get your long-term financial security, which is where you get $1,000 in a treasury bond that's going to, you know, accrue. I don't know. Like I have no idea how much that would be, but it's not going to be a whole lot, right?
I
It's
think
a little
I
bit.
think I read it would be maybe 15 to 18,000 if you didn't contribute
Anything else?
anything else to it. It
Which isn't
might,
nothing,
no,
but
it's
it
not
also
nothing.
it also is a, it's certainly not gonna, you maybe could buy a car or put a tiny down payment on a house or pay for 2 semesters of college. I mean, I don't know what that will buy you in 18 years. But it's hardly, a jump start on the child's future.
Well,
And
and
this is also stuff that has been paid for by private people as well.
yes, yes, right. That part of this is, funded by Dell.
Yeah.
Well, and not even Dell, but I forget his name, but the owner of Dell,
Michael Dell.
Michael Dell.
Yeah.
He and his wife uh, are funding a massive chunk of this. And then to be clear, right, this isn't all kids.
Right. Right.
I think there's just
US citizens.
it's just a
US
3-year
citizens.
window.
Oh,
Um,
is it? It's just these next 3 years. So
yes,
Daddy Trump will take care of you until Daddy Trump isn't in office anymore, and then you
2020,
can
yes.
then
Uh-huh.
you could rely on Daddy Trump's. You don't have medical care?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you should go to Daddy Trump's Trump RX,
Right.
which is this has to be a clear violation of some of some clause.
Well, but this is right. So this is where I was like, oh, this is absolutely then about birthing bodies.
This
Um,
one here.
right, because they're talking about, all right, we're going to address ovulatory dysfunction, hormonal imbalances, insulin resistance, and obesity.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things that we see as we look through some of this language about like a healthy birthing body is a concern with obesity.
Mm.
And so I was curious and I clicked through to Trump
To Trump
RX.
RX.
Hmm. And um, Trump RX, the price. Uh, and one of the, oh, let's see. So I think, all right, so the one of the things that I saw
Mm-hmm.
was that it looks a little different, but the top medications
Yeah.
are um GLP-1s
Mm.
for right, so obesity and insulin. So, and I think actually if you scroll down, we might be able to see that some of them are on like on a discount. There is uh special thanks to President Trump, introducing most favored nations pricing, but there'll be some that are like specially reduced.
Right.
So, uh, so for the so all right, so I think
We
what
go over. Are these GLP ones? I don't know
I
the
think
names of.
so.
These are
I
all
think that's all. Yep,
Ozempic. So this is
yep.
all just these are um
No,
these
there it is. Presidential deal. It's the presidential deal.
yeah.
Uh, and so, right, these are all obesity pills. Um, so the healthy birthing body should not be obese. Here, we've got a pill for that. Um, Insulin, we've got a pill for that. I think they do some fertility drugs as well.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe.
but so it's funneling you um in
Well, and
terms
it,
of
and it isn't offering you healthcare either.
no,
Like
no.
that's what sort of, if you're thinking about starting a family, you should talk to a health provider. We can't help you there.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten rid of healthcare for you, but if you can talk to a health provider and they can get your prescription for GLP-1, then we can get you a lower cost, because you also don't have healthcare to pay for the prescription drug.
Right.
Right. And the way that you get the lower prescription is by going through privately operated organization that bears the name of the president, but I don't think has any relationship to the federal government.
No, I don't think so.
So Daddy Trump, there to the rescue.
Mm-hmm. So those are the first four kind of things that we see.
They're really the only things too. Everything else is kind of what do you see in these last sections here?
Well, so preconception health, right? So this is again, so I think you can, if you clicked on that and then go to click on more information about preconception health.
Here?
Yes. Right. So this is Department of Health and Human Services, Office on Women's Health and Preconception Health. And so one of the things is what to do before you get pregnant. And I'd like you to click on if you are sexually active. So that's on the left side towards the top there.
Oh, yeah.
And this is about if you are sexually active, you should have a plan. What to do if you get pregnant, and what your goals for your reproductive life might even be. And
this one, I really like this one. I'm sure that this is a direct quote from this person that
yes,
really exists in the real world.
yes, they and
I'll make sure that I don't get pregnant by not having sex,
yes,
by using birth control correctly every time I have sex.
yes, right. And so what we see, right, when it comes to women and babies and sex, is that in the end, women are the responsible party.
Yeah.
They bear the consequences for not using birth control correctly.
Sure.
And so but the options offered to women who aren't ready to have a baby are, right, well, don't have sex, or, right, get married and then do your duty within marriage and procreate.
Yeah, here we have somebody who's making a very concrete plan. They want to make sure they finish school, and that's something they've thought about. And their husband, because
Yes.
they're using birth control, but it's their husband.
Yes. Yes.
It's going to help them make that decision.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So on surface level, these are
Sure.
reasonable proposals.
Sure.
Right. But when we get into the details of it, like these examples, where these images of how families being constructed, the boundaries and parameters are coming into play, right? Looking to be fixed.
Sure.
Here. And and here's also a link on this site to that family planning clinic. You can also, okay, say find a health center, but these are often, again, these pregnancy crisis centers.
The planning clinic.
Yeah, it takes you back to one of those searches that you would get from our very first resource.
Right. Although these are the ones that they could have some kind of just general health clinics here. But the first resource on this page that's gonna, because you read from left to right, the first place you're gonna go is these pregnancy centers,
Correct.
which are privately run, not funded by the government, These are the
Mm-hmm.
crisis pregnancy centers that are part of that other network.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yes. So, uh, so these are some of the things that I think that we're seeing, and for sort of for my general interest, I'm thinking about before the decision to have a
sure.
baby, right? Because I want to think about how families are being thought about and formed. So I wanted to see um, what else we might find. And Project 2025 also talks a lot about promotion of healthy marriage. Um,
Okay.
and so if I looked further and I found that there is an Office for the Administration for Children and Families. They have a program called HEART, which is Healthy Marriage and Relationship Education for Adults. And then helping every area of relationship thrive. So
Okay.
that's the hard part.
Okay.
And this would include premarital education, so marriage skills training for engaged couples, marriage enhancement. I don't know what that means. Divorce.
Like is that like when you get like sex toys? Like is it no,
I
probably
don't
not.
know. Uh, but they have like parenting
Okay, so
skills,
this is
financial management, conflict resolution. So they have a whole set of programs and grants available under this helping every area of relationship thrive. These are
okay.
marriage promotion programs. Uh, they might feel reasonable, um, but it's a very specific definition of marriage. There's also the Forge program. This is family opportunity, resilience, grit, engagement. And this
Okay.
is for fathers,
Okay.
right? Adult fathers, it says. Forge fatherhood, adult fathers. Um, and these are this is their fatherhood program. Uh, if you're an eligible father to participate in this program, you could be a father or a father figure, but you do have to be married or unmarried biological fathers,
Okay.
expectant fathers, adoptive fathers, stepfathers, or father figures such as grandfathers or foster fathers. Uh, and these again are also marriage and relationship education, um, uh, anger management, problem solving skills. Uh, they'll talk about the promotion and benefits of marriage and two-parent involvement, family finances. And here's the interesting one, right? So under Moms.gov, right, we
Mm-hmm.
have resources on health, nutrition, setting up a savings account for your kid, and finding cheap medication.
Mm-hmm.
For the goals under the Forge program are promoting or sustaining marriage, this idea of responsible parenting, um, where you teach fathers about child development, uh,
Sure.
positive communication, setting limits, and using nonviolent discipline. Um, Showing the importance of being an involved parent, self-regulating and self-regulating. And then the third one is economic stability.
Right.
Um, so focus on employment, right? Mostly making sure that these fathers can find sustainable economic employment so they can do sustainable economic support. So very different kind of ideas
Sure.
about mothering and fathering, right?
Yeah.
What being a
Bothering.
fathering. And yeah, there was a line in Project 2025 that is very focused on, right, nuclear family form, and that we need mothers, to love and nurture, and we need fathers for play and discipline.
Play and discipline.
Play and discipline.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that I think discipline might be wrong. It might be protection. Play
Hmm.
and protection. I think they were going for some alliteration there.
Oh yeah.
But
That's good.
something along those lines. And that's the kind of logic that we're seeing move through these programs, right? That provide the rationale for these programs. And it matters because these programs are giving out grant money, right? So we might be thinking,
Yeah.
all
That's
that
what
money is,
that's what Forage is. Forage is a that page I was just on is a template for organizations who want to apply for grants for money to, and the same with that one, and the heart program. These are
yes,
these are
yes,
grant programs that are funded by the government, that and you have to adhere to these principles in order to get that grant money.
yes,
So
yes. So this matters on the ground for for people who are doing work with families, um and works to provide resources to organizations that and get so that they have a greater ability to further this sort of Project 2025 understanding of marriage and family. For Project 2025, we are the American family is in crisis. Like, that's one of the first things
sure.
that that's in the very beginning. And so when we see attacks on trans folks, when we hear talk about single moms again, um th- this is all to other, so that we can go back to this form that's um the the safe space,
The true family.
the true family.
Um, well, so we're getting close to the last few minutes here, and I know you want to talk about
Yeah.
the other ideas of family, but I was struck by a quote, and I was just sharing it with you, from Stephen Miller at that ministerial on left wing
Yes.
terrorism earlier this month,
Yes.
um, where where he's talking about these radical leftists, these terrorists are not operating from a place of sincere political conviction, that they are fundamentally motivated by envy, hatred, and jealousy, that they look at what is beautiful and what is good and what is natural and are filled with envy and hatred. And the thing that he kind of cites as the kind of the things that are good and natural and beautiful, he says the leftist looks at a perfect family with the perfect life and a perfect job and perfect kids that goes to church every Sunday and is filled with a feeling of inadequacy and jealousy. They covet and they turn those emotions ultimately into a desire to subjugate, to oppress, and to inflict pain and suffering.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess my last question is to you: why do you hate family so much, Katie? Why are you so motivated by envy and hatred and jealousy of the perfect family?
Well, I mean, it's one of the things that we've talked about, and I say to my students, that I'm grounded in a tradition of critical theory, and people are like, "Why are you guys always, why are you guys always so critical?" And it is because we understand that things can be better, that things don't have to exist in the form that they do. And for all of the idealization of the nuclear family forms, we know that, family dysfunction comes in all family forms.
Sure.
And that, one of the things, and I think this connects a little bit back to your conversation last week, was that, people are flawed. Um, we're mean, we're cruel, we're empathetic and compassionate. We, um, some people make good parents, other people don't.
Sure.
Um, People who aren't parents, parent. Um, and so I think that what the left should do is to really push back on the normalization of the nuclear family as an idealized family form, um, and connect with people around their own experiences with family, both biological and chosen, and to really start thinking about what it is we expect from our families, um, what the state expects from our families, and how we might think through some of these policies differently. So
Yeah.
for example, under paternity, the question really is about what we're looking for the father to meet the best interests of the child, right? What are the needs of the child? And I ask, does finding the father meet the needs of the child? Not always, right? But if the needs of the child are um, education, food, shelter, clothing, healthcare, there are ways that we can ensure that all of our children get those things.
Yeah.
Um, that rather than say, oh, your dad really sucks. So, bum luck. Um, but it
Yeah.
does
There's it's
require
a
a
pretty
more,
it seems like a pretty easy argument to make from the left that all of these things are actually other countries provide these socially in really efficient ways, and have better outcomes, health, especially in sorts of healthcare and
yes,
education, than we do. And so it would, if only there was a party that was actually committed to that level of kind of democratic socialist provision of needs.
right, right. And you and with connection with Moms.gov, right? Of course, the fundamental this the scary part is the road to Gilead, um,
Yeah,
where the idea of we need women to have babies. How do we get more women to have babies? And the language from the right is you need to be obedient women in a nuclear family form. Um, and of course, women are saying, I don't think so.
yeah,
And
and
so,
have been for quite a bit of time.
yes, yes. Um, so, and I was looking at some of the numbers on actual population, and we are having fewer babies, um, but it is not quite as dramatic as sort of the far right is screaming. Um,
Well, and
uh,
and most of what has made it possible for us to not have the problems of replacement rate that other countries in Europe have is that we've had kind of open immigration,
yes,
right? I mean,
yes,
and that's one of the main things that has helped us, so that that's not a concern. Like replacement rate isn't a big deal if you know that there's people coming in because you have a thriving economy and people can come and start a new life, and so all of this is premised on a sort of all the concern, all the crisis is premised on a fundamental fascist, white supremacist,
yes,
xenophobic understanding of what the nation is and should be.
yes, yes. And I think the quote that you gave from Stanley earlier, right? This mythology. I think part of looking through, things like Moms.gov, thinking about the mobilization of paternity and what are we really asking? Looking through Project 2025 and thinking about how they're mobilizing this idea of family. It gives us the opportunity to demystify
Sure.
what family might be. Right. And so for us to talk about and think through the idea that uh, the best care for a kid might not come from a biological parent. Maybe it's adoptive parent, um, step parents,
Sure.
uh, that
Grandparents,
grandparents,
aunties, uncles, the kinship that goes
kinship.
beyond the family, right? These
Yes.
are the ways that people have taken care of children for thousands of years, and we haven't had to have this
Yeah.
sort of nuclear vision forced on us.
Well, and there was a really good piece from Anne Steckner, and it was called For Richer, for Poorer, Reimagining and Reclaiming the Family for the Left. And so she's writing this in 2018, but she says, one of the things that we ought to be doing is to not be basing our idea of um, providing things like healthcare and education, not not focusing on family forms, but making sure individuals' needs are met sort of
Hmm.
individually,
Yeah.
right? So moving beyond the idea that we can only meet these needs within the family, that we should be thinking about how to, absent a father, right? Absent a mother, how do we raise and make sure that we have happy, healthy children?
Yeah.
Um, and that has, we have to start to think about um, what other ways that we can shape the allocation of public goods and resources so that, we're not bombing Iran and
Instead of,
and
yeah.
you know and cutting um out, free lunch and breakfast, school lunch programs.
Well, I'll make sure to link to that piece, and if there's anything else you want to link to in the show notes. But that, yeah, I mean, I think if it takes a village, it's best to not go around burning down all the villages.
Right,
Like that. That seems like a good strategy.
right. Yeah.
So, well, thanks for walking us through moms.gov. I think it's a creepy place when you look
It's a
closely at it.
it's a it's a creepy place when you look close at it. It feels like, yeah, this makes sense. But
Yeah.
it is a world, it is a sense making kind of place. It's the hegemonic order.
Well, thanks. Next week, we'll be speaking with Dolores Phillips, who has just ascended to the role of president of the Cultural Studies Association. We'll talk to her about her work and her vision for the organization going forward. If you're joining us on YouTube, it'll be streaming there again. And this episode will also be available on the Breaking Culture Live YouTube channel later today. So please share it with your colleagues and let us know if you have any ideas for future episodes or invitees by emailing us at breakingculturelive@gmail.com. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Sean Johnson Andrews. Please check out my Substack at breakingculture.substack.com.